Welcome to day 1 of Money Wound Medicine. I am just heart burst open. So I hope you can feel that energy just coming through the computer screen, wrapping you up and just spreading all throughout the ethos, because that is how it feels. My desire for us, as I've got my crystals here, I've got a really special candle lit. I'm just going to close my eyes and call in all of the non-physical support that we have available to us. All the saints and sages of all religions, all the angels, the non-physical beings, all of our ancestors that are here for our highest good. We call in your energy, we call in your non-physical support as we go through this healing process. We ask for you to add your magic to infuse the vibrations of permanent healing, of potency, of building momentum, and of energetic up-leveling into this container, into every participant, current and future. I visualize this big ball of light that's building and building and growing. And as it builds, it's speeding along with ever-increasing momentum to carry us forward far beyond this container with our healing of our money wounds, our ability to unblock money, our ability to receive it in ever-increasing amounts, our ability to stand in our sovereignty, to make decisions from desire, from pleasure, from power, to reclaim our birthright, to re-identify with the part of us that is one with the universe and that is one with every resource available to us. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We receive, we receive, we receive. An important part of exponential healing, exponential transformation is believing in all of the support that we have available to us. If you already feel it and you're already tapped into it, that's beautiful. And if you need to borrow the belief from me, that is beautiful too. Borrow the belief, suspend any of your own disbelief and just say, you know what if it was true? What if it was true that there was so much non-physical support, that I had an incredible spirit team, just an army of non-physical beings here to support me in this life journey, that are cheering me on, that are so excited for me to reclaim my power, that want me to have every resource, including money and especially money, to live out my life purpose and mission. What if? What if that were true? Can I try that on for size? Can I pretend that it's true and just see how it feels? And then so it is. So as we dive in on this first call, you may hear me on this call and on subsequent trainings talking about concepts that you've heard before, talking about concepts you've heard me teach on before. And what I invite you into is a deepening of understanding, allowing everything to land, allowing it to hit different, to feel like, wow, this does feel like the first time. Or I've heard this before, but it's really landing different. Wow, can I deepen my understanding of this? That's an incredible way to take our healing to deeper, more potent levels, is silencing the part of our ego that wants to say, oh, I've heard this before. Oh, I've tried this before. Let it hit different. Let it land different. Let that be a gift that you give yourself inside of this program. So what are money wounds? Money wounds are stored trauma that we have inside of our body and in our brains. They're beliefs, they're feelings that have been put there, that have been conditioned, have been stored and trapped, often for many decades, often from childhood, from the ways that our parents and the caregivers that were important to us, the way that they talked about money, the way they thought about money, the way they experienced money, the things that they watched on TV and what was said about money there, the way that we experienced it when we asked for things and either received them or didn't receive them, the stories, thoughts, and feelings that surrounded all of that became true for us. And we kept that understanding, we kept those feelings inside of our body since that point. And so the visual of a wound, an actual physical wound, I believe, is a really helpful way to understand what's happening inside of our bodies. Because we understand that our body can get physically injured, and yet we also understand that we're not the injury. And so when we can simply understand that we have a wound, that's actually a really powerful first step in our healing process. Because if we're simply walking around with mystery symptoms, without any diagnosis, without any understanding of what's going on inside of our bodies, it can feel really difficult. It can feel upsetting. It can feel that this is simply the way that things are going to be. It can feel like we're a little bit crazy. It can feel disappointing or demoralizing, like things are never going to be different than they are. And, you know, after I had my daughter Faye, I was buying into some of the conditioning in society around bouncing back after pregnancy. And I was very fit, the best shape of my life going into that pregnancy. I continued working out during the pregnancy. I received a lot of praise from my community for being so fit and healthy throughout the pregnancy. And so I had a desire to really bounce back quickly and to get back to physical activity very quickly after giving birth. And I'll never forget, my midwives came over to my home day 3. They had come back after 24 hours after the birth as well, but then they came back on day 3, and I answered the door. And they were like, oh, no, you should not be answering the door. And I was like, well, no, I feel fine. I feel good. I have energy. Like, I want to be up and about. And they were like, listen, you have a placenta-sized wound on the inside of your body. The wound is it's like as big as your head. And if you could see it, if it were on your leg, if you could see this wound, you would not be up and walking around and trying to push yourself physically right now. And it was true. I probably wouldn't have, but I didn't have an awareness to the wound. It was invisible to me. And when our wound is invisible to us, we can be experiencing symptoms and not really understand what's going on. So the truth was, even though I was up and walking around and had some energy in those moments, I also had moments where I did not have a lot of energy at all. I had moments where I was feeling a little bit lightheaded. I was bleeding. All of these things that would have felt very scary if not in the context of a wound. And when we think about our money wounds, it's truly no different, because we carry around these wounds, and as long as they're invisible, we're still experiencing the symptoms of them without the understanding of the root cause, without having the benefit of the diagnosis. And so when we don't have that, we believe that this is just always the way it is, that this is just how we are, this is the way that life dishes things out to us, and we're not able to other ourselves between our own personal identity as a sovereign being and our wound. And so our wounds tend to run the show and act quite irrationally without us being the wiser. So if I were to tell you that you had just run out of Post-it notes, it's unlikely that that would trigger a trauma response for you. You would probably say, okay, I understand. I need to buy more Post-it notes. I'm going to put that on the list. Or, I can get by without them for a bit. So, I'll take care of that later. But that's fine. We'll handle it. We'll take care of it. And yet, when we talk about money, if you were to see your account balance go to zero or go below a certain amount that in your mind you've decided is okay and is safe, it typically does trigger a trauma response. There's fear, there's anxiety, there's stress, there might be anger, there might be disappointment, there might be apathy. You might look at your bank account and then literally not want to do anything for a couple of days. Just get under a blanket and watch Netflix and kind of like hide from life. These are all trauma responses. These are actions, thoughts, beliefs, and actions that are coming from a wounded place, but you feel like they're coming from you. So the simple fact of understanding I have a wound and learning what your wound feels like, what it is, naming it, understanding when it wants to say something and when it wants to take action, what does that look like? What does that typically sound like for you? That in and of itself is an incredibly powerful first step towards permanent healing. Because up until that point, you feel like this is just the way things are. We don't go around all day trying to determine if there's enough oxygen and worrying subconsciously that the oxygen might be running out and trying to measure every breath and maybe take more shallow breaths because what if there isn't enough? We don't do that, but we do it with money. We do it with money because of our money wounds. So we've talked about what they are. We've talked a little bit about why we have them, but really the most important part is how do we heal them, right? It's like we can spend a lot of time going into the nitty-gritty of why we have them, but really our energy is more beautifully spent on acknowledging them, really taking a look at them, perhaps for the first time ever in your life. Like you've been going around pretending you don't have this wound. You've been pretending that you don't have a nail in your foot, and you've just gotten so used to the way that you limp around that it just becomes your normal way of walking. And when someone asks you, why do you walk like that? It's just like, what do you mean? This is how I walk. For the first time, you get to stop and sit down. You get to look at the bottom of your foot. You get to really examine, what does this wound look like? How long is the nail in my foot? Is it infected? Does it need stitches? Can we remove it? Do we need the help of a doctor? What kind of medicine do we need to put on it? Bringing our conscious awareness to the wound is incredibly potent, incredibly powerful. because it's the very thing that we've spent decades and decades of our lives avoiding, never acknowledging, and perhaps completely unaware of its existence. But being unaware of it doesn't mean that we haven't experienced all of the ramifications of it. I'll never forget my husband, Jeff. He used to love looking at Zillow and at Redfin and all of these websites where you can look at all the properties that are for sale and look at all the pictures and see all the newest real estate listings. And he would very often send them to me, like, check out this new place. And as you might imagine, he didn't really get off on looking at starter homes. Can anybody else relate to this? Either you or a partner, someone in your life. Not exactly dreaming about the very bare minimum that's available, the very cheapest homes on the market. No. And of course, we live in Southern California, so that doesn't help the cause as far as property values. But he would send me listings that were like in the $3 to $5 million range. So we're talking the homes that have the 180-degree views of the ocean. We're talking homes that have private tennis courts, that have infinity pools, that have more bathrooms than bedrooms, which I think is practically the definition of a mansion. And he would be feeling so lit up, so expanded by this, right? Like dreaming into the possibilities, like maybe we could have this someday. Isn't it incredible that these homes exist? And I would take one look at that and it would immediately trigger a trauma response. Inside my head, the trauma response looked and felt something like this. Oh my God, I am married to someone that is completely out of touch with money. Completely out of touch. Has no idea and no plan for how on earth we could ever afford a $3 million home. This is incredibly scary. I have to be in charge. I'm on my own with making sure that our family is taken care of financially. It's on me. Because if this guy is in charge, God only knows what he's going to do. But he may just spend on frivolous things until we don't even have a roof over our head. Whew, this is really scary. So it's really important that I'm in control, that I know what's going on with the money, that I don't give him too much access to our finances, that I keep him kind of at arm's length when it comes to the money, and that I just take on all of that responsibility myself. I'm telling you, I felt so much fear. It just felt like this internal contraction, this immediate anxiety. It would send me into so much hypermasculinity